The end is in sight. Hi everyone, my name is Erica, aka ECR Horses 1901, and welcome to part 9 of tier ranking every traditional sized Breyer horse mold. After this video, we have just one left in the series, so that's pretty exciting, and I hope you'll stick around until the end of the video, where I do have a small announcement about my schedule for probably the next couple of months. For now though, let's go. Spirit, introduced in 2002, sculpted by Kitty Cantrell. You already know what I'm going to say. Too cartoony, not for me. And that is true. But Breyer has made a lot of models with this mold that aren't as cartoony, at least they tried. Mostly they would take away the eyebrow, which helps but doesn't entirely solve things. For example, Padre from 2012 through 2015 is cute, but that eye will peer into your soul. Probably the best of the bunch, if I had to choose, would be Ringmaster, specifically this glossy one, which was a Breyerfest 2006 special run. Plus there's Apparition, who was a 2020 Halloween horse, because I don't need my Halloween horses to be 100% realistic. Obviously. Spirits going C tier. Sport Pony Fjord, introduced in 2022, sculpted by Maggie Jenner Bennett. This mold has never actually had a regular run up to this point, although it is considered a variation of the Astrid mold, which I talked about back in part 6. As a Red Roan Pintalusa, it sold for $11,000 as a one-of-one Breyerfest auction in 2022, and the Strawberry Roan Rapunzel version that I had on the screen before, let's bring it back, was a Breyerfest special run that same year. I like her, but do I like her enough to seek her out? That is the question. B tier. Standardbred Mare, aka Constantia, introduced in 2022, sculpted by Kitty Cantrell and Maggie Jenner Bennett. Well, at least I'm not surprised it's a standardbred, unlike with poor Adios, who, again, we talked about way back in part 1. This mold has also never had a regular run to this point. She first appeared as Constantia, who you see here, a Bay Sabino Pinto for the 2022 Premiere Collection. In 2023, they brought her back as a Breyerfest store special, this time as the white Via Latea. Now, I like Constantia, but I'm not a fan of albino or dominant white horses as a general rule, so this mold has potential, and for that reason, we're gonna stick with B tier. Standing Quarter Horse Mare, aka Firefly, introduced in 2021, sculpted by Morgan Kilbourne. This mare is very adorable, though I'm noticing, at least in this picture, I don't know if it's the same in person, she is very downhill in conformation. Not like that's exactly rare in quarter horses nowadays. Anyway, my favorite two, because there have only been 4 models on this mold altogether, are this one, the Strawberry Roan Firefly, which was part of the 2021 Premiere Collection, and Ebony Shines, a Palomino from 2023. This mare always comes with a foal, which we'll get to in a bit. Anyway, she is really nice. A tier. Standing Thoroughbred, aka Emerson, introduced in 2018, sculpted by Susan Carlton Sifton. This mold is fine. It's, again, certainly a horse. And there have been some nice models made on it, but this type of horse is generally not my thing. My favorite is actually the glossy, bright blue Ukraine benefit model, which was a one-of-one, so unless I were to get one customized, that ship has sailed. C tier. Stockhorse Foal, aka Standing Stockhorse Foal, introduced in 1983, sculpted by Chris Hess. We've returned to an old school model after some time away, and with old school models come old school issues. If you don't evaluate his conformation too closely, it's not bad. It's also not great though. I was trying to pick one or two that I like more than the rest, and I just can't. I would pick one up if I found it in an antique store for like $10 or less, but that's about it. Stockhorse foal, C tier. Stockhorse mare, introduced in 1982, sculpted by Chris Hess. Another mold we're not going to look at too closely. There was a 2017 warehouse find with a dapple gray coat that was not too bad, but before that, this mold had not been used in a regular run since 2009, when it was paired with a doll, some English tack, and a poster as part of the Let's Ride lineup. I think using these types of not great models for sets that are definitely aimed at kids makes sense, because after all, you don't need a conformationally perfect horse for that. Sorry, Stockhorse mare, unfortunately, we're still going D tier. Stockhorse Stallion, introduced in 1981, sculpted by Chris Hess. Another mold that was amended years later, in this case 2008, to have a longer tail. This is definitely another mold that I remember always being around, though I never had any of these models. Unlike the Stockhorse foal and mare, who each had been one of one Breyer Fest models only 2 and 3 times respectively, the Stockhorse Stallion has been a live auction model 9 times, most recently in 2020. The coloring on this model is very nice, described as a sooty golden palomino overo, and you can also see here the more modern, longer tail. He sold for $4,500, which was on the lower end price-wise. He's not good, but he's not offensive. D tier. Stormy, introduced in 1977, sculpted by Chris Hess. I'm going to say this quickly. Stormy is not a good mold, but like other old foal molds, that's really hard to say, he's cute in a very weird, almost alien-like way. And I actually want Coral and Reef, the 2015 Vintage Club set, because this version of Stormy is something else. A very surprising S tier. But let me explain. So I will, in my wrap-up video, get into my process for writing these videos, but way back when I was originally writing this script, I was so enamored with this silly little Stormy, not this one, but the original, that I immediately went onto eBay, and even though I wasn't going to shell out the money for Coral and Reef, I did buy a Stormy of my own, because yes, I'd never owned one before, and I am extremely pleased with him. He sits right here on my work desk every day, and he makes my work days a little bit better. So, bravo, Stormy. Strapless, aka Hunter Mare, introduced in 2003, sculpted by Summer Prosser. Rangy horses aren't for me, so this mold, although it can be pretty, does nothing for me. If I had to choose one, I'd go for either Epona, the 2020 Breyer Fest special run, or for something completely different and unique, I very much like Anatomy in Motion from 2005 through 2008, C tier. Stud Spider, introduced in 1978, sculpted by Chris Hess. Back to one that's more my speed. The Blanket Appaloosa from 1990 through 1991 was my second Breyer model, and I named him Kudos after the snack bar, if anyone else out there remembers those. I don't think this mold is terrible, to be honest, though I'm not gonna run out and conga it or anything. Oh yeah, and remember the Madame Alexander doll collector convention where in 1987 a version of Justin Morgan was given out along with a creepy little doll? See part 5 for more info. Well, in 1994, a Bay Blanket Appy was part of this set along with Navajo woman accessories, and approximately 835 were made. That's all the info I have about that. Stud Spider, C tier. Suckling Foal, aka Nursing Foal, introduced in 1973, sculpted by Chris Hess. looks a bit strange on its own, which is why I don't think it's ever been sold as a separate model. That said, he's fine for what he is, a foal mold from 1973, and my feelings on him are pretty neutral. I actually own one of the sets he was a part of, the Medicine Hat Mare and Foal from 1994 through 1997. Unfortunately, mine are both pretty dinged up, so they're currently in a box in the basement. By himself, he's just okay. C tier. Cession, I don't know how we're pronouncing this, but this girl. Introduced in 2002, sculpted by Kathleen Moody. Admittedly, I did not realize that this mare is also normally part of a set with Le Fire, that getting up for the first time foal. I remember just seeing pictures of the mare by herself on Identifier Breyer and having that "what are you doing?" question pop into my head. But with the foal there, it makes more sense. Nevertheless, this is still not a favorite mold of mine. Going through the different models, I'm struggling to find one that I really like. Maybe the Red Dun pair from Breyerfest 2002, as something about her face looks kind of crazed in pretty much every other version. This one here looks fine. So I hate to do this, but D tier. Tennessee Walking Horse, aka Midnight Sun, introduced in 1972, sculpted by Chris Hess. Big Lick sucks. And I am glad that this is not the only Tennessee Walking Horse mold that we have nowadays. Because I don't think hating on Big Lick is controversial for most people, I'm kind of surprised that Breyer has continued to use this mold over the years, if not as a regular run, as a variety of special and limited editions. It's been a Breyerfest live auction mold 8 times, most recently in 2012 with another smutty Palomino blanket Appaloosa, which sold for $1,500. Its final appearance thus far was a warehouse find in 2014, a model called Redmond, and the bright bay is nice, but doesn't outweigh the negatives. I truly hope this is a mold that we never see again. Tennessee Walking Horse, F tier. Thoroughbred Mare, introduced in 1973, sculpted by Chris Hess. Here is the mold that normally comes with the suckling foal we saw previously. I do like the look of consternation on her face, which I think is the first time we've gotten something like that. Despite owning the Medicine Hat pair, I think my favorite is actually the 2019 Vintage Club release, Lillian Sport Horse Mare and Foal, in which they are a Dapple Grillo Pinto pair. I really like the paint job here and the attention to detail on those dapples. Otherwise, this mold does not thrill me. At best, she gets C tier. Totalist, introduced in 2013, sculpted by Brigitte Eberl. Totalist, the real-life horse, deserve better, but that's way too big of a subject to delve into here. I do like this mold, and I actually think the Totalist model is probably my least favorite of the bunch, because it's just black, whereas the others are more interesting to look at. In 2019, 2 different Totalist models were used as both the Breyerfest volunteer model and as a one-of-one live auction. The volunteer model was nicer in my opinion, a model called Man of the Hour, described as a dark bay pearly roan, and based on these pictures he was quite handsome. The live auction model was a pearly golden cremello, again, not for me, thanks. But clearly he was for someone because they plunked down $2,700. Totalist, we're gonna go B tier. Touch of Class, introduced in 1986, sculpted by Chris Hess. Mare or giraffe? Which? This mold has neck for days. You can probably already guess what my feelings are going to be. Rox Dean is one of my favorite real-life horses ever, but this is another where I would only take this model if it was practically free. I was not surprised to see that this mold has most recently appeared as part of the Let's Go Racing playset, which, as I've said earlier in this video, is a good use for molds that have flaws like this one does, because it doesn't matter if it's just for kids to play with. I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to go F tier. Trakener, introduced in 1979, sculpted by Chris Hess. This gives me big German riding pony vibes, and seeing as that mold is from 2022, it's very possible. He's fine, not great, not awful. The Lifeguards of the Queen's Household Cavalry is a fun set from 2003, although I somehow doubt they are wearing white oven mitts as gloves. I also love the 2023 Breyerfest Diorama Contest Prize model, this beautiful, very glossy bay. He's been a one-of-one Breyerfest live auction model 7 times, most recently in 2017. This was a very interesting flaxen liver chestnut color, which I think looks really good on this mold. That sold for just $3,700 and was actually one of the higher selling models that year. We're gonna go C tier. Trotting Arabian Mare, aka Weather Girl, introduced in 2011, sculpted by Brigitte Eberl. Another Arabian I really like, but currently have 0 of. A lot of eye appeal and a great variety of colors. My holy grail model on this mold is Assam, the Breyerfest 2017 model. There were about 150 matte and just 5 glossy of this blood shoulder Arabian, which I believe I've already mentioned in a past video is one of my favorite markings, so I doubt I will ever find her for a semi-reasonable price, if I ever find it at all. Anyway, I really do love this girl, and we're going S tier. That brings us to the final mold for this video, Vallegro, introduced in 2015, sculpted by Brigitte Eberl. This is another handsome mold. My favorites are the 2019 Web Special, Lucian, a nice Bay Tobiano, and I also like both versions of Pollock, the 2021 Breyerfest Special Run. We don't need to go on and on about this mold, it is easily A tier. Okay, so let's check out the tiers for this week. We now have 14 in S tier, 36 are now in A tier, 29 are in B tier, although technically that should be 30, however, there was no picture for the Sport Pony Fjord, so if you count there's only 29, but there should theoretically be 30. We have 48 in C tier, 26 in D tier, and finally 19 in F tier. Whoa, I'm big. Okay, hopefully this doesn't mess up my audio, because sometimes it does. But anyway, so yeah, we have one more video left of the tier rankings, part 10, and then, as I've been mentioning, there will be a reflection video, and then I will actually have time to do some other things. Now, the issue, and if you notice community posts on YouTube, you may have seen this announcement already from me, but I work in academia, and so because the spring semester is just about to begin, I am about to be very busy. Whereas the rest of this time that I've been creating videos, I was either in my winding down period or just outright on vacation, so I had plenty of time. My goal, therefore, is, while I would love to keep putting up videos once a week, I can't promise that I'm going to be able to, so I think it's probably more realistic to say that you can expect videos every other week starting 2 weeks out from today. If I happen to have a slow week though, and I'm able to get up a video sooner, then cool. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to say you can't count on it. So I don't know how long this is gonna be the deal, because sometimes I'm busy in January and February, sometimes it goes even a little bit further, but every semester's a little bit different, so I'm not really sure what this semester is gonna turn into. But I did just want to put that out there, so hopefully you'll understand and be patient for when the next few videos finally appear. Alright, well, I guess that's all I have to say, so as usual, thank you for sticking around, and I do hope that you will like and comment and subscribe and all those good things, and I will see you next time for the final part of tier ranking every traditional-sized Breyer horse mold.